Hey everyone. So I have some bad memories from college, being in college so many years ago. And getting to the end of a course I was taking and students would ask the professor, "So what's going to be on the final?" And the professor would say, "Well, what we've talked about in this class is going to be on the final." And then the students would say, "Well, is there anything in particular that we should look out for?" And the professor would say, "Well, all of it is testable material." And there would just be this weird dance where the students would be frustrated because they feel like the professor should give them something to look out for, a target to hit, if you will. And then the professor would be frustrated because the student should have been taking notes and doing the readings this whole time because anything in the course is obviously going to be on the test. And so there was never this middle ground. So, what I've tried to do, since I'm on the other side of the fence now teaching, is to create a middle ground and maybe even weight it more towards the students in the sense that my bad memories of having no idea which needle in a stack of needles over a semester's worth of material is important or more important than the other ones to be on the test. And so I wanted to create two things for you. Number one, a thorough, hopefully helpful, hopefully self explanatory review sheet, which is up on Oaks. And then two, create a quick video here, which is kind of an FAQ video of explains my philosophy about testing and why I assemble the test the way that I do, my expectations of you on the test, and then what to look out for specifically in terms of the types of questions, etc. So, in general, I try to be challenging but fair in these tests, which is why I think the test questions themselves will challenge your knowledge of the course materials, but at the same time, you should have ample information ahead of time about what I'm likely to ask about. Not to mention the fact that this is an open note test in the sense that you'll have 3 hours and you can have all your materials with you because you won't be in an exam room. There won't be anybody proctoring the exam. But I would say, just as a word of caution, um, the test itself, if you were likely to, if you took it without any notes, I think it would take you about an hour or an hour and a half. And if you don't study ahead of time, you don't know the material well enough to do the exam with limited consultation with your notes, then you could find yourself in a problem area where you're running out of time and you still have to write essay questions. So I highly disadvise, or I highly advise against being overly reliant on your notes. I would study a lot ahead of time, know this material forwards and backwards, so you don't get in a position where you can't finish the exam or you can't finish some of the questions because you're hunting for the right answers in several textbooks and readings and PDFs online and prezis and notes, etc. Students often want to know what the balance of the questions is between the readings and the lectures. And what I've tried to do is I've tried to take roughly half of the readings that we've had over the course of the semester and roughly half of the lectures that I've given or put online, uploaded over the course of the semester to make it a manageable workload. And so while it's a cumulative final, it is in essence a midterm's worth of information that you're responsible for studying for. Given that, I've made it roughly half and half in terms of what I think the workload of studying is. Half the workload should be reviewing the readings and half the workload should be reviewing the lecture materials. And then I've also tried to reflect that on the exam structure itself with a roughly 50-50 structure of multiple choice questions going towards the readings and going towards the lecture materials. I can't promise that it'll be exactly 50-50, but it'll be really close to it. Another thing that students worry about or wonder about on multiple choice tests is, are the multiple choice questions going to be tricky? And so I promise there's no tricks on these multiple choice questions. What I try to do is to have four wrong answers, four undisputed wrong answers to a multiple choice question, and one right answer. So there's no question about, well, is this one more right than this one? Are there kind of shades of gray in these answers? Can I appeal for this to be the right answer and for this to be the wrong answer? I've deliberately constructed them to be four wrong answers and one right answer, so there's no tricks there. And there won't be any tricks in terms of the wording of the questions. No trick questions, no questions that seem to point to one answer that's the wrong answer, but in fact, surprise, the answer is really C, as it always is. None of that sort of stuff. And I also try to avoid all types of really, really difficult questions where you have to put 4 or 5 dates in order, or 4 or 5 candidates in order, or which of the following came first, second, third, and fourth, and then each of the options is some sort of transversed version of those 4 options. I'll avoid those as well. So that's the idea of the multiple choice questions, is that they'll be straightforward, they'll be balanced from the readings and the lectures, and there's no tricks. And then finally, some words about the essay questions. There's 3 essay questions, each is worth 10 points apiece. The multiple choice questions are worth 2 points apiece. There's 35 of them, so that adds up to 100. So the 3 essay questions function like this. The essay questions, what I'm looking for is information. I'm looking for you to deliver the information that I've asked for in the essay question in paragraph form. I think, in general, that it will take about 5 paragraphs to answer these. So I'm not looking for full papers. In fact, I advise against full, huge, let me just say everything I know about this and hope something sticks. I want the information, I want it communicated efficiently, and I think the efficient communication of that information would be roughly 4 or 5 paragraphs. But if you find yourself in a position where you're looking at your answer and you're saying, well, I've provided all the information that he wants in a straightforward and coherent manner, and you're at 4 paragraphs and not 5 paragraphs, or you're at 6 paragraphs, even 7, and not 5, I wouldn't worry too much about that. So in other words, focus on the information, not the length requirement, but I wanted to give you some kind of a guideline for the length requirement so that you're not either just giving bullet points to answer the question or going the other direction and trying to write as much as possible to answer this, given that you have 3 hours. So as a final word, let me just reiterate, 3 hours seems like a long time on an open note test. It can be actually a very short amount of time. Don't get in a position where you're crunched for time, so study ahead of time, and feel free to email me with any questions about this review sheet or anything else about the course. I've really enjoyed teaching this, everybody. Keep in touch with me and let me know your comments if you get a chance to fill out an evaluation. And I'll put up the evaluation materials, links to where you go to fill out a course evaluation online in the next few days. Thanks again, everybody.